appear upside down. So imagine trying to negotiate through the day, trying to cook when like the stove's coming off the ceiling, trying to shake my hand when I'm backwards and upside down. They wanted to see how it would like disorient them, make them hostile. They were trying to see what would happen when they were disoriented in outer space. Would they lose sleep? Would they get nauseous? What they discovered they hadn't intended, it was a byproduct of the study, was that about 25 to 30 days into the experiment, every one of the astronauts, their brain flipped the image right side up again. Now, this is a radical neuroscience finding. What it tells us is that anybody can change anything, an attitude. They can develop a new way of looking at the world, a new paradigm shift. You can change a culture, etc., in 30 days. But here's the kicker. If they took the goggles off any day in the 30, like let's say day 16, it took 30 more days from day 16. So you had to have 30 consecutive, contiguous, uninterrupted days of holding this new way of looking so that the brain could have 30 days to create the new neural pathways. And so what happens is that all of these programs that people do, we're going to have a New Year's resolution, etc., is that they don't sustain the behavior or the new thought or the new belief or the new way of being for a minimum of 30 days. We've all heard the old folklore, it takes 21 days to change a habit. It's really true. We're now saying it takes around 30 days, and we call it the 30-day principle. So if we could get kids to close their eyes, you can get your students every day to close their eyes for just a few moments and see themselves doing their homework in front of on their desk with the TV off and the radio off. See them acting certain ways that are good for them, like being kind and gentle and sharing and so forth. See themselves getting, academically well done. We don't give grades at home necessarily, but, doing the work and getting it done and passing the tests and so forth. See themselves performing athletically, singing well, not stuttering when they give a speech, etc. And what happens is after 30 days, that will link into the unconscious and become a habit. And the last thing, Rebecca, that's really cool is you can use visualization to accelerate the learning of academic material. For instance, when I was a history teacher and I learned this, if I was teaching the Magna Carta was signed in 1215, King John was the king, it was signed in Runnymede, England, then what I would do is I would have the kids all close their eyes and imagine they were running through a field, and a field can be a mead in England, but they're running to a meeting, and they're running there, and the reason they're running is they're late because they look at their watch and it's 12:15, 15 minutes after lunch starts. But they get there and the king's not there. Where's the king? He's sitting on the john. Now they're visualizing all this. The king sitting on the john with his pants down around his ankles. And then they look up, there's a big cart, which would be a cart, and on that cart's a magnum. It could be Magnum PI like Tom Selleck. It could be a Magnum of champagne. It could be a 41 Magnum pistol. But the point is they would link all of those images to those things. I'd have them do it twice. You can go back 10 years and say, when was the Magna Carta signed? They'll go, oh, yeah, running through the field, 12:15. Where was it? Runnymede. Who was the king? King John. So there's so much that we can learn about the mind, and the mind thinks faster in images. The optic nerve is 25 times faster than the auditory nerve. And so just repeating things like 3 times 3 equals 9, the times tables, you want to see it as well as hear it because it's faster and more powerful.
I guess one of the benefits of visualization, too, is that change can be scary. And if you're visualizing yourself as, slender and fit, you get kind of comfortable with that image.
That's right.
And money, too, sometimes we're scared of money. We think that it'll turn us into a bad person. So I suppose if you keep visualizing yourself with the increased income and you're still happy and you're still generous and your friends still love you, I guess it makes you more comfortable with that change happening.
Yeah, what we're learning from, I'll say 2 things on that. What we're learning from quantum physics is it's not an either-or world, it's a both-and. Everything exists simultaneously to everything else. As one person said, every great thought is the opposite of another very great thought. And, haste makes waste, and then we also have sayings, that a stitch in time saves 9, and there's all these things that kind of contradict each other, but both are true. And so you can have money and be spiritual. You can be powerful and be benevolent. I mean, people are so afraid of aspects of themselves based on their childhood experiences. Let me tell you a quick story about the power of visualization in my own life. I was working for W. Clement Stone, and I was making $8,000 a year as a high school teacher. And this was back in the 1960s. And he said, I want you to set a goal that's so big that if you achieved it, it would blow your mind. And I said, okay, I want to make $100,000 in 1 year because that's impossible to me. He said, fine, that's good, and it's measurable. So now he said, I want you to go home, and I want you to cut out a big crease of green paper, and I want you to shape it like a dollar bill, put it on the ceiling above your bed, and write $100,000 on it. Well, I went home and drew for 2 hours and made a really cool $100,000 bill. And he said, wake up, look at the bill, close your eyes, visualize yourself living a $100,000 a year lifestyle. Well, I had a nicer home, nicer car, wonderful furniture, artwork, contributing to charity, etc. And then he said, don't worry about the how. The how will show up out of doing the exercise. I didn't have a clue how I could make that kind of money. Well, about a month later, and this is interesting, that's that 30-day principle again that I talked about earlier. About a month later, I'm in the shower, and I have my first $100,000 idea. I had written a book in 1976, or actually 1966, called 100 Ways to Enhance Your Self-Concept in the Classroom, or Enhance Self-Esteem in the Classroom. And every time that book got sold, I got 25 cents. And so what I did is I said, okay, if I could sell 400,000 copies of that book, that's $100,000. Well, the book had been out a couple of years, but I never saw that as a leverage point for my wealth. So now I started visualizing selling 100,000 books, and or 400,000 books. And eventually I saw something. My wife had an idea. She said, if you only had to sell, if you sold the book retail, you'd make $3 a book instead of the 25 cents you get as a royalty. What if we create a mail order bookstore? So we did that. And we started selling the books, and we had a high school kid come in after school, and pretty soon we added more books, and we had a catalog. We started going to conferences, and we started selling our books there, and we were starting to make $2,000 every weekend, which if you multiply it times 50 is $100,000 a year income. And I could tell you other pieces of this. We'll keep it short because the call's short. But that year, after making $8,000 a year for 3 years in a row, we made $93,238. Now, we didn't hit $100,000, but we were like really impressed. We said, this stuff works. And we've been applying that principle to our life ever since.
Love it. That's a great story. Principle 13 is take action. Can we talk about that for a few minutes?
Sure. One of the biggest problems with people in terms of success, and especially a lot of people that often we might term new age people or people who are in the new thought, is that they'll often sit around and they think if they just visualize, meditate, pray, that life will show up, that they don't have to do anything. And you and I know that, things get easier when you do that, but you can't just vegetate in your room and expect a Cadillac to show up or whatever else it is you want. And so I demonstrate that in my seminars by doing the following. I'll hold up a $100 bill, and I'm giving anyone who ever attends one of my seminars here a really cool clue. What happens is I'll hold up a $100 bill, or I'll hold up a set of my tapes, which is worth about $179, and I'll say, who wants this? I'm going to give this away free right now. Who would like to have this? And all the hands in the rooms go up. People start shouting, waving their hands more vigorously, and I just stand there and hold it. Sometimes a minute goes by. And then eventually someone will tentatively get out of their seat, walk up to the front of the room, or sometimes maybe a couple people, and then they'll see each other and they'll start running, and eventually one of them will get that $100 bill or that set of tapes I'm giving away. And then the point I make is, who got it? And everyone in the audience goes, well, the guy that got up off his seat. And I say, isn't that just like life? The one who gets the good stuff is the one who gets off their butt and takes the actions that are necessary to get the things they say they want. Now, that doesn't mean we have to effort and kill ourselves. My dad worked hard, but he didn't work smart. I believe that when you visualize, if you pray and you meditate, what happens is that you'll start to get what I call inspired impulses to action. You'll be sitting there and you'll go, I had to go down to the library today and see what's new. Or I had to call up my old friend Bob. Or I had to take the kids to the zoo today and have that kind of experience. And if you trust those impulses and follow them, then all the things you're visualizing and goal setting for will start to be attracted into your life, and you'll actually do them. But they'll be effortless. They'll just be these subtle impulses. And I'll give you an example. I had set a goal once. Mark and I were sitting around. We said, what would it take to sell 1 million chicken soup books in one day? Up until that time, no one had sold 1 million books in one day. Since Harry Potter's come out, she's done it as well. And, J.K. Rowling. So we're sitting there, and we didn't have a clue how you could do that, but we set it as a goal. We started visualizing it, holding it as a principle. And then we would start to get ideas. Well, we could do this, we could do that. We started to do them. And then one day I'm sitting on a bus coming back from a convention to the hotel like we've all done, and this woman sits down next to me and says, you're Jack Canfield. I said, yeah. She said, you're the chicken soup guy. I said, yeah. She said, what do you and Mark up to these days? I said, well, we've decided to sell 1 million books in one day. And as fast as I could take an in-breath, she countered with, I can help you do that. And I said, really? How? She said, I'm the buyer for the W.H. Smith bookstores. We have the bookstores in 70% of the airports in the world. What if on one day we take all your co-authors from the East Coast and we just fly everyone across the country from Atlanta to Miami and so